Hello guys, this is Modest Major here, bringing you some commentary over some Dominion Light gameplay. Unfortunately, this may be one of the last times you see Dominion Light gameplay on my channel, because they're changing the rotational playlist over to King of the Hill this upcoming Monday. Something that I was initially really excited about, to be honest. King of the Hill is one of my favourite playlists, but alongside the fact that they're adding in the new voted game type, which is Mosh Pit King of the Hill, 343 decided on their last bulletin that they were going to add in Invis King of the Hill. It's called Stealth King of the Hill, and this basically involves each player loading out with camo, a sniper rifle, and sticky grenades. So let's just hope, for the sake of the children, the poor innocent minds who have not yet been poisoned by the sick evils of the world, that Ragnarok is not included in this map cycle, because unfortunately I think we're going to be getting, you know, it will be similar to like when a nuke landed in certain parts of the world in Hiroshima. I think that will be the scale of the devastation that will occur if Sniper's King of the Hill on Ragnarok with Invis is added to the matchmaking. You might think I'm exaggerating, but for the love of the god, think of the children. Love of the god? That didn't really make much sense. But anywho, I had a topic that I wanted to go into today, and that's regarding survival modes in Halo, more specifically Firefight, and how I believe it could be improved. Now, if you guys know me well enough, you should know that I think the survival maps modes, as of recently, have gotten a little bit stale. I really used to enjoy playing Halo 2 and Halo 3 Zombies. For me, the formula got a little bit dry up until the point I got to Halo Reach. I know a lot of people liked it, but I played so much on Halo 2 and so much on Halo 3 that I didn't think there was enough contrast between Halo Reach's infection to make it more interesting. Firefight, I honestly thought, was a little bit of a generic rip-off of Horde. They didn't really add much to the table there. And Gears of War 2 Horde was the best survival mode I've seen in a game so far. I really enjoyed Left 4 Dead also. Left 4 Dead is one of the funnest games I've ever played. But since then, I don't think there's been that much progression in that genre, and it's a shame, because truth be told, I think it could be one of the best, you know, types of matchmaking or gameplay that could exist, period. And as we see the increases in technology in terms of, you know, Xbox talking about cloud servers, moving to DirectX 12, better graphics, next-gen consoles, I think this is the time to really capitalize on what the hardware can bring to the table to make it a more complete experience and, you know, just more so a more engaging experience. That's what my biggest problem with survival as of recently has been, is that it doesn't do the best job in keeping me engaged. And I have a couple of ideas on how that could be improved and how the atmosphere could be more intense, more engaging, and more exciting overall. So the first of which is proximity voice chat. Proximity voice chat might sound like an archaic form of, you know, Xbox Live chat. Obviously, we've got the party chat now. Why would we want to force players into using game chat, into using proximity chat, which was found in the early days of Halo 3? Proximity voice chat, if you don't know, it's basically you talk in game chat, and if they're in the proximity of you, they're able to hear you. But if you're not, they can't. And this might sound like a rather basic concept, but in practicality, I think this is one of the things that made Zombies stand out as its own playlist and made it a lot more interesting to play. Because if you think about the idea of one of your teammates being over a hill and they're out of your sight, they're out of your sound, you can't hear them anymore, you don't know where they've gone, everything becomes a lot more tense and a lot more dramatic. If they die, you're not necessarily 100% going to know if they die, because it happened on the other side of the hill, you didn't see it coming, and you didn't hear them go, "Oh, I'm dead, I'm dead." So on the opposite side of the map, there could be an absolute disaster going on, even though on your side it seems okay. And then vice versa, you could be wanting to tell your teammates, "Oh my god, there's freaking 500 zombies here and we're getting overswarmed," but you wouldn't be able to do it to the entire lobby, so they could be in for punishment later on. And it's something that made the matchmaking a lot more immersive, for sure, I would say. The next thing is numbers of both enemies and humans. I think the scale of Battle of Survival means there's more at stake, there's more to lose, and it's more often that, like, devastation feels a lot more impactful. Like, if something bad happens, it could go absolutely terribly and you could lose 50 players in one big wave. I think the idea of having this massive army together and maybe they spawn in this central area with the proximity voice chat, it would be absolutely chaotic at the beginning. It would just be complete chaos. And you'd be like, right, we need to get organized as quickly as possible, and someone would have to take the lead. Someone would have to say, we need to, you know, split up into groups, we need to get away, and then, like, the time is ticking down for when the bad guys are about to arrive and everyone's panicking, and you'd have to be more ordered. So the more players, the more room there is for stuff to go wrong, and I think that's one of the more exciting things of survival, is you want the feeling of danger to be as high as possible. Which moves me into my next point, is there also needs to be a lot at stake. I think there could be some sort of, like, firefight ranking system, in a sense, and that's not necessarily saying I'm trying to make it, like, you know, uber competitive, played on MLG, etc. But what I'm saying is there should be, you know, a progression. And if you are going to lose something, if you're going to die, it feels like it's actually been a terrible loss for you to die at that point. There's this kind of disconnect in Firefight sometimes when you're just playing for fun, you're messing around with friends, and you don't necessarily care as much if you die. Which also brings me to my next connecting point, which is the AI could be further improved. I think, like, the AI in games can be a little bit predictable and therefore can get a little bit stale. It doesn't feel as threatening, you know, these bad guys moving in an orderly form. The elites, you can often predict when they're going to push and when they're going to pull away. So as a result, it kind of becomes formulaic. It becomes like, oh, I know when they're going to do this, so we'll just plan ahead for this. And then it's happened. At a high level, that can get frustrating. Whereas you always want to be on your toes. You always want to be worried about the unpredictability of what could be happening around every single turn. And like I said, Microsoft constantly like to boast about cloud computing and how they can power better AIs, bigger worlds, etc. And I think this is something they should definitely work on, is making the AI... You know, I'm not asking for a miracle, but at the same time, just having them be a little bit more unpredictable. Obviously, we're not going to get to a point where the AI are learning every 2 seconds and then taking over the entire world with their intelligence. But at the same time, I'd like just a little bit of... you know, stuff being out of your control, it feeling like, oh my god, that came out of nowhere, that was absolutely ridiculous, and then you have to adapt and survive, etc. And then last but not least, I'd like destructibility. Destructibility, I'm not asking for on a massive scale. Like Battlefield Bad Company 2, pretty much every single building on the map was destroyable at any time. But more something like Battlefield 4, when specific walls and specific instances can be knocked down. I think it would be terrifying to be inside of a building and there being a hunter on the opposite side, just outside the base, and then he knocks one of the walls down, and then a bunch of elites start flooding in by the masses, and it's like, oh my god, we're being completely overswarmed. We need to get out of here ASAP. Because one of the things that frustrated me in Firefight is you could kind of get underground, you could camp down there, and then you'd be safe because you'd know, oh well, that monster's too big to really chase me inside of here. He can try, but then he'll just get absolutely, you know, swarmed by us players. Whereas knocking down specific walls, knocking down specific buildings would add to that unpredictability and having to adapt and survive, etc. But yeah, what I'm really looking forward to, and what I really want to happen, is to have this feeling of, you know, hopelessness at times, that players are just dying around you, like falling like flies almost, and then more and more it's being whittled down, and less people you have to speak to in your group. You're like, Dave, are you there, Dave? Where have you gone, Dave? Oh, for the love of God! There's moments in like Halo 3 Zombies when you just realized that everyone had died on your team at once, and you realized like the comms had gone quiet. It was complete silence, and all you had to do is think to yourself. And I really like that idea, and I think it should feel more like a challenge, more like an apocalypse, and more like there's a lot at stake. That's just my opinion on the matter. You can let me know in the comments if you have any further ideas you want to add or take away anything from what I had to say, or if you don't think this is possible, which is obviously, you know, could be true because they've got such a lot on their plate anyway to start with. You know, they've got to improve the multiplayer, improve the campaign. It's going to be a big task for 343, so maybe this bigger project wouldn't be possible for them. But I still think it's interesting to talk about, and I really miss playing a firefight mode or an infection mode or a survival mode that I really enjoyed, because now whenever I go on Spartan Ops, I get bored in about 5 seconds, and amongst a lot of the Halo YouTube community, it's become a bit of a joke. It's like, oh great, we're going to talk about Spartan Ops again, that mode that nobody plays and that had cutscenes that were pretty good, but then the actual gameplay was fairly cookie cutter. That's just my opinion on the matter. Might be a bit controversial, but I think the playlist numbers speak for themselves. I don't think it's a mode that at all compares to the might of the multiplayer, and honestly, I think a lot more players enjoy the campaign, especially in Halo 4. But anyway, like I said, let me know if you have any solutions in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Modest Major. Peace.